This is the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we have conversations with everyday martial artists about their histories and how martial arts influence their daily lives. You are listening to the abbreviated version of this podcast, which is the first 20 minutes or so of the show. Please consider supporting the show by subscribing on our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/MALMAG, and for about the price of one coffee shop coffee per month, you can get access to 4 new podcasts each month, 1 week before their YouTube release dates. You also have access to all of our existing shows, which at this point is about 100 hours of shows for you to enjoy. Individual shows can be purchased at our Gumroad page. That is malmag.gumroad.com. If you're looking for some sticks for FMA, some cool t-shirts, or even a course on Dos Manos, have a stop by martialartslifestylemagazine.com and click on the store tab or on the courses tab for that course. In this episode, our 100th episode, I sit down at the Inosanto Academy in person with martial arts and movie legend Jeff Imada. We talk about how Jeff got into martial arts, what training Jeet Kune Do in the early 1970s with Sifu Dan Inosanto was like, how he got into the movie industry, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and I am sitting here in Marina Del Rey at the Inosanto Academy of Martial Arts, and this is show number 100, and I got a special guest for you guys. He was very nice enough to come down, take some time out of his busy schedule, and talk with me a little bit. I want to welcome, I think you all know, Jeff Imada to the show.
Hey, thanks, Tim, for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out. I know you got a lot going on, and I mean, we see you around, but you're always kind of on the run.
Yeah, it's been a little hectic lately.
But anyway, well, let's hopefully give you a nice relaxing time to sit and chit-chat a little bit. You get interviewed a lot, and it's generally, when I see it, it's about the project you're on, and we don't really ever talk much about how you got involved in this whole martial art thing. And that's what we're curious about for this particular show anyway. So how did you get involved in martial art training?
Well, let's see. It's from a long time ago. I mean, not that long ago, but I guess, yeah, I guess a little bit. Like high school and stuff, I was like, fooling around with some friends, and they'd throw me around because they did judo and stuff. So, I'd be the throwing dummy. No, I was kidding. No, but I mean, I studied a little bit too. And then mostly just to stay in shape, and never imagined it would turn into a whole, career
exactly.
Or lifestyle kind of thing.
In a lot of different directions.
But yeah, so I, studied karate and taekwondo and did some fencing in high school and stuff and different things. But and then everybody loved Bruce Lee at the time. And I was no different. So I sought out to want to learn more about Bruce Lee's, not necessarily, he doesn't call it the art, but, about Jeet Kune Do and different things. So I was fortunate enough to meet Dan Inosanto and started training with him in 74, I think. Yeah, wow. 74 when the Academy first opened, and I've been with him ever since. And also, been studying, like Guru Dan always emphasizes studying with other people and spread, just always, looking to the horizon on different arts and not just being stagnant. So, I studied different things over the years, and not an expert by any means, but studied different things, different Chinese arts, wushu, and other, Japanese arts and different things, and enjoy all the weaponry and from all the arts, and then here I am now today.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a lot of stuff with it, being quite a representative in a lot of ways of the different arts. So 74 is kind of an interesting time. I mean, I think people obviously, there was the Bruce Lee phenomenon at the time, and clearly, the two people you could go to find that kind of instruction was basically Taki, right, in Seattle, and then Guru Dan here in LA. And some people traveled and stuff to do that, but it was kind of like, what was that situation like? You'd think, I think, as we look back on it, like there was probably this mass of people trying to go study it, but was it like that? It was a small group, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a small group, and wasn't out open. It was at the beginning. Nobody really knew about it, where it was, or anything, and also there was a screening process where you had to have some martial arts background before to even study there, so you could at least appreciate what you were getting and the freedom of being able to ask questions and understand and break away from a lot of the tradition. Well, at the time, most everybody was very traditional at the time, so so you just listened to your instructor and never questioned anything and did what they said no matter what, and took the abuse in a lot of ways and from a lot of the instructors, which is very old school, which there is reasons for it, and it was also you appreciate it, maybe not at the time, but you appreciate it, especially if you wanted to learn. You had to go through that sort of like that level of physicality, but when you studied at the academy, it was sort of refreshing and sort of like also very very unusual to be able to openly ask questions. I remember at the time when I was studying at the beginning, he'd say, "Okay, any questions?" And it was sort of like, is this a trick question, or is this a trick or something?
How many push-ups do I get?
You never ask questions in any other arts. So, but yeah, it was nice, and it was very groundbreaking and very experimental, and a lot of things that you never did in the traditional arts. So so it was a very rare time at that, during the 70s, and people would come in later that were, like very, high level black belts, and different people from around the world, were attracted to the place because of the lineage of Bruce Lee and also meeting Dan Inosanto, who was carrying it on for them. And so it was a very unique period in time.
Yeah. And you were still a teenager, right, at the time?
Still what? Pardon me?
You were a teenager when you...
Yeah, I was like 16 or 17, I think, somewhere around there, 17. And yeah, I was still in high school. And
now, was that a little intimidating to kind of get into the style of training they were doing? Because I think about my start. I was 12, and the first class I jumped into with my teacher, who was a PKA kickboxing trainer, was with these professional kickboxers. And all of a sudden, I'm getting punched at by professional fighters going, whoa, this is, very, very real. And kind of understanding the way the training was back, and then there was a lot of contact, right? So was it intimidating for you as a teenager to?
Oh, sure. I mean, and plus, we sparred like at least once a week, and we did round robin with everybody. It didn't matter your size, weight, height, anything. So, but it was good. It was a great experience because you had to, face different opponents with different skill sets and different styles of fighting, because everybody had a different background, and so that a lot of that would show through, and it was always emphasized that make your style your own, Jeet Kune Do philosophy. So we learn a lot of the Jun Fan stuff and foundational stuff, and then yet you could still express yourself with whatever. Plus, we wore boxing gloves at the time and sparred and did focus mitts, which nobody did at the time, and kicking shields, which weren't around. And a lot of boxing gear, top and bottom bags heavy bags and speed bags and things. It was a very well equipped gym compared to most schools at the time. Maybe they might have one heavy bag or something, maybe two at the most, and unless you're taking a boxing class, you're studying at a boxing gym or something. But yeah, he did a lot of sparring, and then when he introduced the Filipino arts, that came on a little bit later, and he said, "I'm going to start this Filipino martial arts class, Kali class, and if you have time, it'd be great if you could study, take the classes." And at the time, nobody even knew much about the Filipino arts, and even the Filipino community didn't know much about it. So, but it was, whatever he suggested, it was sort of like, hey, I'll jump in, whatever you want to do. So, and it was great. And we used to do a lot of the JKD senior class. We used to do a lot of sparring and also a lot of weaponry sparring. And
oh wow!
And we did that, and there was no protective gear at the time other than like boxing headgear, fencing headgear.
Oh wow,
kendo,
that doesn't really protect the top of the head so much.
No.
Was it rattan sticks you were actually swinging at?
Yeah, rattan stuff, and a lot of sometimes even real swords and things. And but we were.
Did you put tape on that blade?
Well, I mean, but that was not totally loose live. I mean, we'd be controlled sparring, but we did make contact with stuff, but yeah, a lot of it was rattan or I mean, sometimes guys would use, because rattan was, it's not as prevalent. I mean, you couldn't go to the store and just buy it.
Right.
So there's one place that I found that as a outlet or a source for rattan, which out in LA, which nobody really, it took a lot of research to find it. So I found that and would provide a lot of rattan, and also stuff was coming in from the Philippines or Asia someplace, but that Dan would get. But yeah, we'd spar with that. It'd be, we'd do, short sticks, long sticks, spears, staff, mixed in with knife, and there were not really. I don't think we really had rubber knives back then either. So I think there were wooden knives or just short sticks. And the protective gear would be very a mixture of a lot of things. I mean, if there was any pictures of us back then, everybody looked different. Some guys would look for hockey stuff, or some guys would come in with, baseball catchers gear and chest protectors and stuff, or gloves from hockey, or street hockey was not really that much, but or for me, since I was smaller, you'd go for like, the Pop Warner football steer stuff, because you have to have something smaller. But and then glove wise, you had to either decide, okay, do you want to have a lot of protection but not have the mobility and fluidity of being able to do stuff with weapons, or do you want to go really light on protection and be able to move but yet ding more? So for my size, I chose to be able to try and move more and do stuff like buying a pair of motocross gloves, and the gloves now, they have plastic caps and plastic protection that are built on a lot of gloves, or on the street gloves and street rider gloves and stuff. And back then it was just leather gloves. So I'd put like pieces of foam on the fingertips and cut off the fingertips, or being able to cut the thumb off so I could grip the stick better. And so it'd protect you somewhat, but you'd still get.
You'd take a shot on that part of the finger.
Man, there's times you couldn't even bend your hand, or take it in the elbow or something, and but yeah, and then where I think the best at the time, the more or less protective headgear that we found was better was that wearing a boxing headgear with a fencing face mask over the top.
Oh, okay.
And although it didn't protect the back of your head very much,
right.
But the front was protected from, taking your eye out and stuff like that. Cause
did anybody consider like a motorcycle helmet? Because
guys would wear motorcycle helmets, but they're pretty heavy,
and
pretty big, and at the time they'd have the bubble shield in the front, and they'd all fog up and things. So, but when you took a hit to the head, especially if you're getting punched or something like that, all that torque your neck and head because the helmet's sticking out and everything else. So there's things that had to was sort of R&D period of, you know, trying different things and seeing what really worked and what didn't work. And nowadays you can, you know, there's protective gear you can buy. I mean, it's not perfect, but there's a lot of different choices and different things you can do because it evolved from that. And a lot of it evolved because you had like different competitions, and so so then so they started evolving to actually make protective gear.
Well, popularity, you know, gives you a customer base, and so people can start making
because back then nobody knew, and then you go and try and buy something. What are you trying to use this for? And you're telling them, well, you know, but
they think you're
so
nuts.
you just go, you just didn't even bother just saying, I need something that does this, or, you know, do you have anything that protects this area? But yeah, it was a whole mishmash of different stuff. You'd have, you know, shin guards from baseball, and then, you know, like either football. Some guys wore football shoulder pads, and other guys, you know, wore, like I said, baseball chest protectors or umpire chest protectors. And hockey stuff, which is not that. It was hard to find in LA because, you know, LA is not exactly known for playing hockey, especially during that time.
Exactly.
So they'd have, maybe you'd have to go to the ice rinks to look for stuff.
Call your friends in Canada.
Yeah, definitely. I brought some stuff back from Canada when I went out there. But yeah, you go to ice rinks, you go to the motorcycle shops, you go to the football, you know, all the athletic equipment, you know, baseball, football, those kind of shops, and just you'd have to search things out and find what worked, and just sort of pull pieces together. And then, you know, and not, like I said, depend on your size. You might find something at one place more for your size and nothing for me, and someplace else more for me and nothing for you. So, but it was it's very educational because you really got to see what worked and what didn't work, and a lot of the fancy stuff and fancy cool stuff you thought was cool looking, and, you know, wasn't really good for full combat stuff. You know, for self-defense or combative arts. You know.
Well, it was a fun period because I think that lasted even into the 90s. So the early 90s is when I got started in these arts, and I remember my teacher and I would go to a particular sporting goods store they had in Florida, and I know they got them in other places called Play It Again, so it's like used. And we go in there the same thing. Just, okay, what can we get that we think can protect so we can kind of, you know, bang stick-wise or bang empty hand-wise, and it was still pretty experimental at that time, trying this, that, and the other. And, you know, I was finding for like straight blast drills, the motorcycle helmet's good, but not good for actual sparring.
And, you know, and then also the guys you sparred with, you know, that's why people at the time, the JKD class, which was the only class that did it, you had to be voted in 100% by each person, because you're actually, you know, hitting hard, doing a lot of hard training and stuff like that, and you want to know the personality and their, you know, and their level and everything else. So, and it was really well. I mean, you know, because, you know, believe me, I wasn't the best. You know, I was you know, and it depended on the day. You know, it depends on if you got, you know, come out on top one day and you don't come out on top the next day. But everybody had cared about each other. So even if you hit somebody hard, you know, you know, it was sort of like, oh, you okay? You know, you just keep going, or you stop for a beat or something like that. But there was a lot of, oh, sorry, and it's like, oh, keep going kind of stuff going on, where, you know, it's like you hit somebody and didn't really mean to hit that hard, or they were, you know, you thought they were going to block you or check you, and all of a sudden you got to hit in. So,
well, and you had the other concern because you guys mainly trained on like a concrete floor too, right?
Yeah, it was all concrete floor.
Oh wow!
So we even do some throws and different things, but controlled. Controlled, but still, you know, it was like you definitely. It was all there was no mats really, except unless there was something special. But no, I think at the time it was just all concrete. We'd have some fold outs. I think later there's fold out mats we'd pull out for some, you know, ground stuff and things like that. But a lot of times, most of the time, it was just all concrete for years.
Wow.
And we wore shoes, which is the way, you know, reality is. You're not going to be, you know, and it was a great time. Like I said, you really learned what worked and what didn't work.
That's cool, and that's, I mean, you really do have to, and I like what you're saying about the sort of trusted group, because, in reality, when it comes to training that sort of thing and finding those things out, you kind of need that group of people that you trust, and you can do fairly hardcore hitting and training without worrying about killing each other.
Yeah, and it's, you want,
maiming,
you
yeah.
both want to get a good workout, so you
Right.
don't, but you don't want to like completely dominate the person and beat them to a pulp, So,
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you give them a hard enough workout so that they get better, and but yeah, I mean, again, because you're fighting different people in different weight classes and stuff all
Right,
the time,
yeah.
so it's sort of like, and the reach is different. Like, I'm sure if you and I sparred, if you hit me pretty hard.
Yeah, I was
and,
going to say,
like,
well, your kicking range is my punching range.
yeah, so, but, and then maybe my mobility might be faster or something. So you have to figure out, okay, how do you quickly assess your opponent and figure out, okay, how am I going to fight this guy, But, which helped a lot. Cause,
Yeah, it's a great education.
Yeah.
Because you figure, some of the things we're drawing from, say like Muay Thai or whatever, is sport-based. So, and the idea of it is you're going to always, in that sport, be fighting someone who's roughly your size, roughly your experience level. And then how do you take that and then go into a situation where it is a size discrepancy that could be like your size to my size, which we're definitely in different weight classes.
Yeah, and it was very unique time period for that to happen too, because most people didn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why it was pretty cutting edge at the time. But it was, basically carrying on a lot of stuff that Bruce and Dan did when they're, they're all the experimental and sparring and everything else. So, so it was great that, did that, and very unique compared to the traditional arts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how did that kind of work? Because you did say, and I've heard this before about the sort of the advanced class, or the JKD class was something that you were voted into. So if you weren't in that level of class, what was it you were doing in the school? What
there was different levels. They had the thing for if you were doing the Chinese kickboxing, or Jun Fan stuff. There you'd go through the beginning, intermediate, advanced level, and then they had the Filipino or Southeast Asian martial arts stuff, and there are different classes in that and different levels. So you had to work your way up to that, and also, and then they kept, at the time when they opened, there was not that many levels but as time progressed and there became more people, it opened up, and then you do learn, a lot of the Wing Chun foundation and trapping and everything else too. But there were definitely other class levels to be able to go there. And then a lot of times, your Dan wouldn't be teaching a lot of the beginning class. I mean, at the beginning, but later on.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to our 100th episode with Jeff Imada. Coming up next week, I talk in person in Marina del Rey with an old friend of mine, Henry Mosquera. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available, with new t-shirt designs and more products coming soon. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Jack L. Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.